I want to start with a story about the IRS and basically its slow demise over the last few years. About a decade of budget and personnel cuts have crippled the IRS. On Monday, the agency reported that it only managed to audit 0.45% of all personal income tax returns in 2019, less than half the share it examined in 2011. The audit rate has now been declining for 8 years straight. The reasons why, I'm sure that we can all guess. Funding cuts have decimated the IRS, which shrank by 22% between 2010 and 2018. This is their staff. It was left with fewer than 9,000 auditors nationwide, the lowest number in well over half a century. As ProPublica pointed out, the agency simply does not have the manpower to hunt down and catch tax cheats. It also has devoted more of the resources it does have to auditing low-income Americans who might have made mistakes filing for the Earned Income Tax Credit, mostly because that's cheaper and easier to do than going after people who have a lot of wealth. And again, for obvious reasons, there's a lot more legalities and that sort of thing inside of that. So, the share of tax filers with more than $10 million in income who faced an audit has fallen from about 30% in 2011 to only 6.6% in 2018, the latest year for which we have data. So why are these budget cuts taking place? Well, conservatives have demonized the agency for decades, and during the Obama administration, they used a series of inflated controversies as excuses to slash its funding. They accused the IRS of signaling out conservative nonprofits for harassment. I think that's a typo. They criticized it for spending too much on sending staff to conferences, and they attacked the agency for its role in implementing the Affordable Care Act. So some really great news for the super wealthy and, anybody who sees taxation as theft, possibly, so there's not as much auditing going on, but that comes at a really big cost. This year, we're expected to lose about $630 billion to slip through the government's fingers this year because of no auditing.
Yeah, so we actually covered this with...
what's with that camera angle?
Camera's off. We flip it back.
Hey,
we can figure that out.
Look at that one.
We'll go there.
Yeah.
Let me fix that camera.
Okay.
You talk.
Okay. So it looks like that's off. So the IRS, we talked about this with Lainey on Thursday and about how the IRS is targeting people mainly that have the lowest amount of income for the same reason you brought up. It's harder, it takes more time to go through these big cases. Now, the ironic thing is the IRS is one of those organizations that the more money you put into it, it gives a return of about 10 to 1. So that's a really big deal. That's something that, helps because they're catching people that are cheating on their taxes. So right now we have an IRS organization that the wealthy, I'm sure, are very aware. No one's checking on their stuff. I would love to know the numbers of how many wealthy people actually got audited in this last tax season. And it's very difficult because we're small business owners. Like, I'm finally filing taxes for Hardlands, and it's like, oh, I have to do all this work, and but it's like, oh, if I didn't do it, who would anyone know? Of course, I'm going to do it, but it's
you're like, don't audit me.
yeah, don't. But it's like it's just very annoying that it feels like I am sending the IRS a number that they already know so they can verify whether I got the same number or not, and I'm spending my own time to do it when it seems like no one's at the helm at all.
That would certainly cut down on the hours needed to figure out, are people paying the right amount in taxes? And most of the money that can be recouped by the IRS, the bulk of it is coming from wealthier Americans because that's just larger dollar amounts that are being paid in taxes. What's interesting is I saw this article and I'm like, boy, I remember this argument. And it dawned on me that Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner, authors of Freakonomics, made this in one of their follow-up books called, I have it here, it's called When to Rob a Bank and 131 More Warped Suggestions and Well-Intentioned Rants. They made the argument that, hey, we instead of changing these laws or changing this tax rate or, fixing that tax thing there, it would just make billions and billions and billions of dollars flow into the U.S. government more quickly. Just hire more people to work at the IRS. because like so much money just doesn't get paid, and there literally aren't the number of people to go track it down and be like, hey, you owed us this.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to give you an idea of just how big this gap is. So I said, what was it, $630 billion? So we spent $409 billion. We spent that much on Medicaid in 2019. And almost as much on Medicare, which was $648 billion in 2019. So just the tax gap alone would actually cover large amounts of us, basically socialist
It's
programs.
almost like the people who are running the show in Congress have a lot of wealthy buddies that don't like having to pay those taxes
Blasphemy.
and like getting away with it.
You are a conspiracy theorist, sir. There is no proof of that.
There's plenty of evidence.
Absolutely. So, there are a lot of, especially with the Democratic primaries going on right now, there are a lot of socialist programs being talked about. And I can definitely see this being a very easy fix and an easy fix in just obtaining money quickly.
Hey, you know what the people like talking about? Job creation. This will create a whole lot of jobs.
Start getting your degrees in accounting.
Yeah, just what we do. We get all the people that are in H&R Block and everything who are keeping taxes from being simple from the poor side, knock out their profession because we don't need that for the reason I just brought up. The IRS just sends, they say, hey, this is what we think you owed. You agree? Yes or no? Send it to us or whatever. And that's just like what they do in every country in Europe. And just take those H&R people, hire them in the IRS, the good ones, hopefully, and put them on getting money from the wealthy. There, done. You've done a good job. A good job, America.
Well, and,
Do we get a sticker?
Yeah. Sure.
Well, I mean, not a hardline sticker, apparently.
Oh.
I asked for one earlier.
We only
No
have the one
dice.
prototype.
You can, if you want a hard lens sticker, you can go to the link below and buy one.
I'm gonna push this button because I fixed the link button in the
good.
chat, so the chat can see the link in the thing. Chat link button.